and I'm the president of the Chicorowa Community Association. And I just want to say a couple of things. First, thank you all for coming, and thank you all for coming. It's a big, big night. And we know that the vice president and vice president, that is going to happen at 8:30. So we want to just move along as quickly as possible. It starts at 9? Oh, thank God. We're going to try to be out of here by 8:30. George assures me that we will be out of here by 8:30. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a couple of things. One of them is October 8th at 7 o'clock at the farm stand, B&B, which is my husband and I own. We are going to have the next Chicorowa Community Association meeting, and it's open to the general public, and there's usually a good time going on. I mean, we're not a whole super serious group all the time, just once in a while. And you're welcome to attend. That's a Tuesday night. And we're always done by 8 o'clock. And then the partying starts. And then the next thing is October 20th. We are going to have Oktoberfest at the Preserve. Tickets are available online. You can go to ChicorowaNewHampshire.com to get more information. And it's also posted on the Tamworth Exchange. And there's a link that'll take you to ChicorowaNewHampshire.com. It's general admission is $10 each. For if you want to reserve a meal with your admission, it's $25 each. And then we're looking for some sponsors to help us paying for the band. So $100 sponsorship will get you a meal and VIP seating for 2 people. And the full menu is on the exchange. And the last thing is save the date for Light the Night, which is going to be January 19th. It's Martin Luther King weekend. And earlier than that, you bring down your Christmas trees that you're done with, and we pile them up, and then we light the night. We have a bonfire. At 4 o'clock at the farm stand B&B, we have beverages. At 5 o'clock, we do the bonfire, and at 6 o'clock, we all go over to Runnels Hall, and we have a potluck. Okay? Without further ado, let me hand you over to George Cleveland.
Thank you, Lisa. And again, thank you all for being here, and a big thank you to all the candidates. All candidates invited came, and that's really a wonderful thing. So we definitely want to thank the Chicorowa Community Association. We want to thank the farm stand for giving us really superior sound. And candidates, we do have one microphone that we're going to be sharing, and we have a really good one, so we're going to be able to get all your dulcet tones clearly. So if we can hand that down along the way as fast as we can when you answer your questions, that would be really helpful. And yes, I know some of you think that you can be heard in the next county without a microphone, but that is not true. So please do use the microphone. Big thank you to Mad TV for being here and broadcasting it. That's a really real treat. And of course, thank you to the Brett School for letting us be here once again. That's also really nice. So again, we are going to have this wrapped up by 8:30, and no matter what. And we're going to begin with, I'm just going to ask if all the candidates, if they could just hand the microphone down the line, introduce yourselves, and tell us what office you're running for, and then we're going to get underway. So, take it away.
All right, we're going to test proper microphone technique. Can you hear me fine? Excellent. Okay, I'm Jim Pittman. I'm from Effingham. I'm running for state rep for District 8, which is the flotorial district here.
Hi, I'm Kim Johnson. I am running for the state rep for District 3, Moultonborough, Tamworth, Madison.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Ringelstein. I'm from Moultonborough, and I'm running for state rep in District 3, Moultonborough, Madison, and Tamworth.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Marsh. I'm from Brookfield, and I'm running for Senate District 3.
My name is Rob Davies from Wakefield, and I am running for Carroll County District 8.
Good evening, I'm Emmett Soldati. I live in Somersworth. I am running for Executive Council District 1, which starts down in Durham and goes up to the Canadian border.
I'm Joe Kenny, running for re-election to the Executive Council, which I will let you know it does run from Canada to Durham, because it traveled many miles over the years to get back and forth. I'm from Wakefield, and again, thank you for coming out tonight.
Hi, I'm Brian Taylor from Freedom. I'm running for representative in District 8, which includes Tamworth.
Hello, I'm Joe Hamlin. I am from Moulton Borough. I am running for House Representative, District 3.
Good evening. My name is Carol Crawford. I'm running for re-election for District 3, Tamworth, Madison, and Moulton Borough. And I do live in Moulton Borough. Thank you.
I am Richard Brown. I'm currently state rep for Carroll County District 3, but I'm running for Carroll County District 8 this year, thanks to Mark McConkey.
Good evening. I'm Mark McConkey, and I hail from Freedom. I'm running for Senate District 3.
Thank you all very much. And also before we start, I just want to say hi and introduce to our outgoing state senator who has served us for many, many years in Concord as well as in the United States Congress, Jeb Bradley, Wolfboro. And finally, if you have a cell phone, could you please put it on stun or buzz or whatever it is that doesn't make noise. All right, we are going to begin. We're going to go down the line again, and since that's come back up here, we'll start with you. I'm going to ask each candidate to introduce themselves as to why they're running for the office they are running for, and please, because of the fact we do have a lot of you and we do have a time element, if you can try and keep that to 90 seconds, and if you start to go over, I will ask you to please wrap it up. So take it away.
Okay, thank you. The advantage of seating position, isn't it? All right, I am running for this office as a result of my time serving on the Governor Wentworth Regional School District Board for the last 5 years. I'm also on the Finance Committee, so for those years I've had a front row seat to how financing school districts work. Events of the last couple of years are very disturbing in terms of the impact on our school district funding, which already imposes a staggering tax burden on our towns, and it's looking like it's going to just get worse, and I don't want to see that happen. I believe public schools in particular are the greatest representation of democracy we have, and current circumstances do not treat it with the priority that it deserves. So those are among many issues I'm interested in, but in the interest of time, that's my priority. Thank you.
Thank you, and on down the line.
Hi, I am running, basically as former PTA president, I got very involved in the school district and was very disturbed about some things that I heard were going on in the legislation regarding public schools, similar to Jim. And I am currently still raising my family in the Moulton Borough Public School District. My one daughter graduated last year, and I have twins that are juniors. But also, because I have daughters, I am very concerned about women's reproductive rights. And because of my children, we are an IVF family, so that just extends to other things besides abortion, contraception, and IVF. So those are things that are very important to me and why I'm running.
Hi again, Sandra Rinkelstein. I started this cycle honoring the greatest generation. I feel like we're in a pivotal moment, both in our democracy, both locally and nationally, and it was really important to me to step it up. I have 2 sons who have served, one who is currently serving. I need him to be able to salute the people worth saluting. So for me, it was a matter of the grand scale that filters down to all of us. I truly believe in what Jim and Kim just said about I was elected school board member, so public schools are near and dear to my heart. I was also a certified childbirth educator, and I absolutely believe there should be nothing between a woman and her doctor, and reproductive rights. The government has no business being in there. And lastly, because there's so many things I could cover, I worked in the business office of high-tech instrumentation and control company for water and wastewater. I want clean water. I want our aquifers safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Again, I'm Bill Marsh from Brookfield. I had a wonderful time serving as the state representative from Carroll 8 for 6 years. I thought I was done. And recently, a great many people asked me to run again. And so I'm happy to put my name forward to do that. I support all the issues that the previous 3 people all said, but I can't say that I have a tremendous agenda. I just want to go do a good job and solve problems for the community that I know and love.
Rob Davies from Wakefield, and 9 years ago, I was pretty happy to not have a lot of interaction with my state government, but my life changed pretty dramatically. My son found himself in prison, and my wife and I adopted his daughter when she was 6 days old. So that made life pretty interesting, and I found myself with a lot of interactions with the state government, and so I decided there were some things that went well and I liked, and some things that didn't go so well and I didn't like. So here I am trying to do my part to make the state government work a little better for people.
After college, I did 3 things that were pretty life-changing for me. One is I got sober, I moved home to my hometown of Somersworth, and I opened a business, a restaurant, in the tradition of my grandfather, which I believe Representative Brown worked at on the Seacoast for some time. And New Hampshire, though I'm a 3rd generation, had changed and was changing dramatically. The hospital that I was and my siblings were born at had since shuttered its maternity ward because it was taken over by a corporation. The local public school that I went to, that my grandfather went to, was also closed. As a member of the recovery community, I was seeing a substance use crisis that was really outpacing efforts on the ground, and we now see a housing crisis that is trailing alongside it. On the ground floor, as a business owner in the state, I see that if we want New Hampshire to be the place that my grandfather promised his son and my father promised me, for me to promise to the next generation, we need to really tackle the challenges, whether it's limited access to healthcare and reproductive healthcare. We need to strengthen our neighborhood public schools and support our local taxpayers. And we need to make sure that our next generation can not just survive in New Hampshire, but thrive.
Thank you again. I'm Joe Kenny. I'm a local guy in Wakefield, grew up in Carroll County, served the United States Marine Corps for 37 years, served in 3 combat zones. I know what it means to protect our rights and our freedoms. I lived it for a long time in my military career. I got involved in public service, both the Senate, the House, and obviously the Executive Council to help people. If it's a problem for you, it's a problem for me. Let's solve it together. This position, I want to continue as a full-time position, not a part-time position. Because with 3.5 hours from the Canadian border to Durham, you have to be constantly on the road, eating up the gas, the food, and meeting your constituents. It can't be done in an office somewhere that you're not out and about. My objectives really for this election is to look at the needs and concerns of the citizens of New Hampshire. There is a tremendous amount of needs. We can look at carbon offset credits and outside companies that have moved into New Hampshire that want to dictate how we're going to use our land and prevent harvesting. We can look at our trail system that has been severely damaged and we're not able to repair them in an amount of time that would regenerate our travel and tourism. We can look at our educational system, we can look at our healthcare system, and we can obviously do better. We have an initiative that I want to see through, which is broadband for the whole state. That every household has high-speed broadband, and we have the initiative in state government, and we're working towards that.
Time, Joe.
I know too much.
Evening, I'm Brian Taylor. I spent the first 18 years of my life in Effingham and graduated from Kenner High School. I left for the military, then for a large company out of state. During that time, I was in a lot of volunteers organizations, from Special Olympics to visiting nurses to fire department and others. My parents were heavily involved in local politics. My father being a selectman for many years, my mother being on the school board, and she did serve a term as a representative of Concord. I have some very strong feelings about a couple of things, such as education opportunities for people within New Hampshire, the natural resources that we have that bring in tourism, and particularly water qualities in the state. Also, I believe in financial responsibility by the state. I appreciate this opportunity to meet with you and for you to ask me questions, and I'm looking for feedback from you, what you'd like to see in Concord as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Joe Hamlin. I've only lived in Moultonborough for 3 years now. I've been a business owner for over 30 years. When my wife and I were looking at retirement, we looked around, decided, where do we want to live, what do we want to do, and we knew New Hampshire was a place we wanted to be, and we started looking for a place to live, and it took us over 1.5 years to find a place. There's not that much housing out there. Well, we've secured a place, we moved here, we love it here, and during the 3 years that we've been here, I've been meeting a lot of other business owners. And one thing that I've heard commonly is we have a worker shortage in this state. We don't have trained people. And even if we had the trained people, where would they live? Well, it turns out that moving to Moultonborough, I ran into an old friend of mine, Representative Brown. We were childhood friends. He was my best man 50 years ago. And he was running for service for his position 2 years ago. And I found out about it. I contacted him. We reconnected. And we've talked about some of these things. And he has assured me that if I run and get elected, I can help work and address some of these issues that the state is facing. And that is really the reason why I'm here today. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carol Crawford. I am running for my 7th term in the House. My first, the first 5 terms were with Moultonborough, Tuftonboro, and Sandwich. And then the district changed, and I was running for Tamworth, Madison, and obviously Moultonborough, because that's where I live. I've lived in Moultonborough for 46 years. I'm running because there's still a lot to do in Concord, and I feel that I have concerns for the future of our economy, lowering our taxes. I've always made the pledge, no sales tax, no income tax. I'll stick to that. Educational funding obviously is very important. Housing, I'm 100% for public education. You can take that to the bank, 100%. So I'm really interested in keeping that the way it is. And obviously we have a problem with cyanobacteria. I did co-sponsor a bill that the governor signed for that, and we know that we have a serious problem. If we don't have clean lakes and ponds, we've got a problem with our vacationers, and people can't swim. So I'm very, very concerned about local taxes, and I hope that you'll consider voting for me in November to put me back in the House. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm Richard Brown. I'm the current state rep for Carroll County District 3. I'm running for Mark McConkey's current seat, Carroll County District 8, because he suckered me into it. No? Okay. Actually, he asked me to run for Carroll County District 8 simply because it currently encompasses the District 3 towns of Moultonborough, Tamworth, and Madison, and then the additional 5 towns. So I felt like I'd had the experience. I'd been successfully, I think, mentored from Mark and Carol both. I was fortunate enough to have experienced state reps to work with me over the last several years and to help keep me straight on some of the issues so that I understood the depth of the issues when I first got into the State House, which was a little bit overwhelming initially because of the procedures and everything else. But I was fortunate enough also to get on the Municipal and County Government Committee, which supports a lot of the local issues that people in towns like ours have. Some of the issues for your ability to determine what your taxation and what regulations you're under. I'm a firm believer in keeping our taxes and our regulations low. I'm also, of course, on the county delegation, which has turned out to be more work than I initially thought it would be. I think most reps get surprised when they find out what kind of workload that is. But I'm also on the County Lands Committee with Mark and David Page from Conway, which has been a challenge because of the issues that we currently have with housing and some of the child care issues that we have in the county. Some of you may have recently gone to the charrettes that we had in North Conway, over here at the Hobbs Taps, and another event at the county. So, okay, so that's a very important issue. I ask you to continue to support me. I'm learning the job still, but it's something I would like to continue to do and support our town. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard. It was time for you to sprout your wings. Carol and I have been married for 44 years. We have 3 children. We enjoy our 6 grandchildren, 3 of which are just about a year old. Raised them all in Ossipee. I'm not retired. I'm a small business owner operating a family excavation business, and I co-own M&V Convenience in West Ossipee. I'm a 9-term legislator, 18 years. I've served my entire time on Public Works and Highways, twice as chairman, twice as vice chairman. Public Works and Highways responsible for state roads and state buildings, care for all of that. While the other committees are policy driven, I have had the pleasure of serving on a committee that has the 4th largest budget in the state. What I'm most proud of my committee is there's not a partisan bone in any of the committee members. Failing roads know no political allegiance. With that said, I've served Tamworth for my entire tenure. There is no majority. The Republicans and Democrats are usually equally numbered. So how have I been elected so many times? It's my ability to set politics aside. That is the same model that worked for Jeb Bradley for all those years, and that's why I think you should consider my candidacy. I believe.
Mark, time.
All right. Sue.
But hold on to that microphone.
All right.
I think there's a state law that requires that this question be asked in any candidate forum, and that is if you can keep your answers as succinct as is humanly possible. And Mark will start with you and come back up this way. Is it time for an income tax or sales tax in the state of New Hampshire?
George, that was nice to be keyed up there. I will not vote for a sales or an income tax. I took the no new tax pledge. We have the ability to work within our means. We've done that well in the past. And what happens every time in every state that has a sales tax is it starts at 4 or 5%, and go to the grocery store now, most places it's 9, 10, and 12%. Work within our means.
Right on down. It's going to, all of you are going to be facing this one way or another.
So I'll tell you the same thing that Mark said. Basically, I took the no new tax pledge 2 years ago when I ran. I'm also going to tell folks that the people that I've met in the district that I represent are all concerned about how they can pay for their food, their clothing, and everything else that they've got to afford right now. So I don't see any way that anybody that's a representative could be willing to increase taxes in the state of New Hampshire. Thank you.
Like I already said, I'll make it really short. No, I will never support an income tax or a sales tax in the state.
No income tax, no sales tax.
No on the income tax but we have a lot of retired people in the state, and they're on fixed income, they cannot afford it. And the sales tax, that definitely no, because it really hits lower income people for the basic essentials of life, and that cannot happen.
So I think knowing the income tax and sales tax, we have to live within our means. Understand that New Hampshire has the second lowest tax burden in the country behind Alaska. So we keep your money in your pockets at home. But having said that, the next couple of years, we know that the ARPA money, the American Rescue Act money is going away, that we're gonna have to get back to traditional budgeting in Concord. So we're gonna have to have a governor and a legislature that's gonna be mindful of the tax dollar. Right now, the governor has asked that all the department agency heads level fund their budgets. So that's in anticipation of a downturn in the economy and knowing that we're not gonna have as much money in state government. So with that, we surely don't want to burden the taxpayers with an income or sales tax.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. The fiscal cliff has ended for ARPA. I'm running for a position, as Joe knows, that doesn't do any policy, so I have no plans to introduce any new taxes, sales or income. Do want to point out that New Hampshire does indeed have a sales tax. As a restaurant owner, I pay it every single month, and you all pay it every time you eat out at any restaurant in the state of New Hampshire. So we do need to be mindful of our revenue. I think we need to look at things like cannabis. Again, I'm not running for a legislative position, but we can't just say no new taxes in Concord and then send the property tax bill up and up and up to all of you. We need representatives that are aware of the actual entire tax bill that every resident of the state pays.
Yeah, I guess I gotta be the bad guy and say that I think we have to be open to the idea that we need more tools in the toolbox than just property taxes. I don't think it's sustainable to have more than 50% of the revenues come from property taxes. As Emmett said, that's just you're going to continue to drive property taxes up, and that burden doesn't fall evenly on all the people. There's some people that can afford that, some people that have a really hard time with it. And I think that having a more diverse way of getting that revenue into the state, just like I said, gives you more tools in the toolbox.
This May, the fiscal committee of the General Court got an estimate for the cost of the total cost of the settlements for the abuse that occurred at the Sununu Youth Developmental Center. That estimate was $40 billion. That's 5 times the annual budget of the state of New Hampshire. I don't know how we're going to pay that, but I've always paid my bills, and I believe the state of New Hampshire needs to pay its bills. How are we going to do that? I don't know. But it's not fair to put that on the property taxpayer, and we're going to have to figure that out. I'm afraid the Republicans have left us with a mess because they did not do their due diligence when Kelly Ayotte was in the Attorney General's office. But somehow we have to pay our bills.
So one of the biggest things we hear when we go out and talk to our neighbors is taxes and how we're going to pay for things and the cost of living that is quite high right now. We know where some of it came from. It came from past 4 years, past 8 years, I should say, when COVID first started. Things are tough, but I'm going to take the pledge. I am going to say no new taxes, no new sales or income taxes. I think with some fiscal responsibility, with people working together. And one of the things I noticed is that I ran 2 years ago in the Flotario district. Nothing's changed. We have exactly the same problems we had 2 years ago, 4 years ago, with the legislative majority that needs to be changed. And I think if we change that majority, we can work together and figure out how to solve our fiscal issues in a more efficient manner.
Thank you, Sandy. I, like Rob, think that we need to really look at the whole picture with all the things we have coming up. Bill mentioned something that's an estimate that's coming up that the state will owe. as well as a recent tax, the interest and dividends tax, which was eliminated in New Hampshire. So I think that once the new legislature gets in, you have to sit and look at everything that's coming, and then if there's hard decisions that need to be made, they may need to be made. But obviously, everyone wants to avoid an income and sales tax, but if something has to give, it has to give.
Thank you very much. I know it's politically expedient to say no new taxes, no taxes at all, lower taxes. I think our job as legislators are to run the state, and to say that we're not going to do that in some cases is disingenuous. As stated by others here, sometimes there's a hidden tax because that comes in the form of, hey, your local property taxes are going up. Wonderful. So let's not play that game anymore. I'm not a fan of income tax. I don't think that's what we should reach for, but I think we're losing an opportunity with the sales tax. We have a lot of people who come to this state from Massachusetts and other southerly states who spend a lot of money up here. Let's let them contribute to our tax base. Now, of course, the answer to that is, but I'm going to have to pay a lot of tax too. I would say a sales tax coupled with a full-time resident tax rebate can balance the scales, will bring in revenue from out of state, and we will not seriously impact our residents.
Thank you.
Oh, you don't ask.
All right, speaking of revenue, we have this question has come up in a couple of different forms tonight. And it's basically a two-part question. If you need me to repeat it when it gets to you, just ask, it's not a problem. If you are not in favor of commercial cannabis legalization, would you support ending criminal penalties for personal possession and consumption subject to public consumption restrictions? That's part one. And part two, if you're in favor of commercial legalization, do you prefer the state-run solutions similar to the Liquor Commission framework, or do you prefer opening up licensing to all members of the qualified public? So you all can ponder that, and you get to start.
I do?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay. Well, easy answer is I am definitely in favor of decriminalizing the recreational use of cannabis. I think we're well past the time when that should have happened, and I think everybody's pretty familiar with the arguments that support that, and I would probably be pretty well in alignment with most of them. In terms of who will take on the opportunities of selling, many of us believe in the free enterprise system, and I don't see any reason why we don't open it up to businesses to be able to take this on. Of course, they would be subject to that sales tax I just mentioned, so we would also have some revenue coming out of that. I think there's a lot of details to work out. There are some compelling arguments for allowing the state to run the program similar to what they do with the alcohol. But that would not be my first choice, but my mind can be changed.
Thank you, Jim. I, like Jim, am
Thank
in
you.
favor of decriminalizing marijuana use. And again, as Jim so eloquently put it, I think we're to that point, or we're past the point that is something that still needs to be a criminal offense. As far as the sale of marijuana and who should be able to sell it, I feel that maybe a combined method where there could be state licensed individuals, more like franchises, I guess, that could have dispensaries or various ways to stores to sell the cannabis, but then the state would at least understand what was coming in and how the revenues were being managed.
I'm so glad that marijuana, cannabis has been decriminalized to the point that it is. It needs to go further. I'm thrilled that medical usage for marijuana has been allowed in this state. I know people who need it desperately and who find that it is so helpful for the ailments that they have. I am not for a cannabis store in the corners of our towns. I am going to be probably different from a few people sitting up here. I don't know the mother of any 13-year-old who would like a marijuana pot store on the corner in your community. It's not something I've ever hoped for. I think we have a lot of vice in sin taxes. I don't really want to, or revenue, I should say, coming in from vices and the like. I'm not comfortable with cannabis. I know it's probably not popular, but I'm not comfortable with New Hampshire going that route. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I do support legalization. Prohibition didn't work in the 1930s, and it's not working now. However, I think that as a state, we need to be responsible when we legalize cannabis. And that is why, when I was in the House, we passed a bill that I sponsored to require the ATCs to make posters and pamphlets and various warnings about cannabis use during pregnancy, cannabis use during adolescence, and adolescent poisonings. We need to pay attention to the public health aspects of this so that we do this better than any other state. I think that's a requirement for me to get my vote to legalize it. As far as which commercial model works best, I have no idea. And I think that the proponents of both of them are vastly overestimating revenue to be gained because, frankly, all the states around us have done it already.
I've been for legalization for 40 years. And I can tell you what my concern is that when I was a kid, it was easier for me to get illegal marijuana than it was to get a bottle of liquor when I was underage, which is a ridiculous situation. So, however we do things, I think that the important thing is to maximize the revenue that the state can get out of legalization, while at the same time keeping it out of the hands of kids.
So I am very much in favor of cannabis legalization, and as someone that lives on the Maine border, it's easy to forget that there isn't legal cannabis in this state. We're a small and narrow state. Every other New England state has caught on, has understood that this is an economic issue. It's also a recovery issue. Most recovery organizations see prohibition as very harmful. So I'm in favor as a small business owner of the entrepreneurial model. We know that other states have been able to add some regulatory provisions that would address concerns that Sandra and others might have to make sure it just doesn't proliferate everywhere. Caveat, of course, the Executive Council doesn't touch policy. I might be saying that a lot, as Councilor Kenny and I will probably explain. But in general, I'm supportive in favor of legalization.
So I'll agree with Emmett that a lot of what we're hearing tonight is about policy issues, but having been a 14-year legislator, I'm always involved in some shape or form. I support medicinal marijuana. I do not support legalizing general marijuana. I think it's some of the THC in marijuana is 10 times what it was in the 60s and 70s. I don't think it's good for the youth of America. I'm involved in the KD program over in Plymouth, which asks young people not to smoke, drink, or to take drugs. And I think as adults in society, we're perpetuating a gateway drug into other drugs. And as a Marine officer who was drug tested for 37 years, who was never taken a puff of marijuana, I don't see the purpose of the need for it, only for the chronically ill who feel that they need it in order to get through their condition. But I'm against legalizing marijuana in the state of New Hampshire.
This is a new issue to me, which I do not think I'd ever be addressing. But I think recreational marijuana is a done thing because of our surrounding states. I'd like to see it controlled through state liquor store type distribution. Earlier I mentioned I did not want any sales tax or income tax. as one of our colleagues pointed out, there is a sales tax in the state. We have it on tobacco, we have it on meals or rooms. And here's, for recreational marijuana use, I could see a tax for income purposes, but no tax on the medical side. I think that's all I have to say about this, but I need more feedback because, as I say, it's a very new issue to me. And as I say, it's a done thing because of our neighboring states.
So I believe that use of marijuana, recreational marijuana, should be legalized. It's been outlawed for many years. It doesn't seem to stop people. It comes into our state illegally. But just because it gets legalized doesn't mean it shouldn't be controlled in some way. The state needs to set some sort of laws, some sort of limits, much like we do with tobacco or alcohol. It's something that is time to happen. Like I said, we are an island in New England as far as use of marijuana. It's inevitable. Let's get a handle on it and get it run the right way. Thank you.
So, I'm from a law enforcement family. My husband was a state trooper at a Troop B for quite a few years. He served 26 years in the state police. I also teach driver education at Plymouth High School. So I'm against it, and I have to be against it because I can't stand up in front of my students and say, they know I'm a state rep, Mrs. Crawford, did you vote for legalized marijuana? I can't vote for that for my own personal reasons, and I don't care that the other states have it around us. I think it's a bad path to go down. I have a daughter that lives in Colorado. There's pot stores everywhere in Colorado. You can't go into a mall without smelling marijuana outside. It's disgusting as far as I'm concerned. I voted for medical marijuana. I thought that was the way to go. That is to help people with medicinal purposes, their cancer or whatever it might be. For just recreation, no. I'll never vote for marijuana down at the State House. I'm sorry, but I won't.
Okay, so 2 years ago, the same question was asked of me when I was here, and I said back then that I would vote for legalization of marijuana. So, and I explained the fact that young people currently were going to Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts to get marijuana. They're still doing it. So we're not stopping people from using it, and as a libertarian type person, I also believe that it's not the government's right to tell us what we want to do from a recreational perspective. But since I've become a state rep, I've gone through the process in the State House to see how we can do this. And it's not a simple thing because there are people that are adamantly against it and there are libertarians that are absolutely for it. So I'll tell you what I did in my last session was that the first bill I voted yes for to legalize, which was a simple bill to basically legalize it for recreational use, and there would be a 14% tax on it. And then the second bill, which I voted no on, was a franchise model, which was basically a big business model, which would limit the sale through 5 to 7 distributors or franchise models. And I voted against it because it was almost like big tobacco, big marijuana, and I felt like that's not the model that we want to have in New Hampshire. And I also spoke to people that are current users of marijuana in the state, and they were absolutely against the big business model, the franchise model. The guy said to me, one of the guys said, I can drive 15 minutes across the border and get marijuana cheaper than I'll be able to get it through the franchise. But also people need to understand that there's concerns about the quality and the level of THC in the marijuana, so it's not a simple question. And I'll tell you, when I examine these bills, I read the whole bill, I look at the testimony, and I try and see both sides of the issue before I vote. And I think that's critical for any state rep to do on every subject.
Thank you, Richard. My record on this is clear. I have supported medical marijuana. I supported lessening criminal prosecution for small amounts, which is our current. I don't believe that New Hampshire, we stand on our own. We're not Colorado. I'm certainly not in favor of many things that Massachusetts is doing. So no, I will not be voting in favor of legalizing marijuana.
Thank you all for that. Mark, if you could hold on to the microphone. Next question we have. Would you support the End of Life with Dignity bill if it comes up again?
Thank you, George. I've spent a lot of time thinking on this subject, and I was of the opinion that that there should be a way for loving family members to assist when there is no other option. The problem with the bill that came up this session was that someone could make that decision in a matter of a couple, 3 weeks, that it was time for them to end their own life. And I'm sure many of you, and especially with older adults and family members, know that there's swings in personality and other things. If you were to say that this decision would be taken over a matter of months, and that was the determination, I would go for that. But I did not pass this bill this time because that requirement, that window was as small as 2 weeks.
So, like Mark, I didn't vote for the bill this year, and I voted against it for a couple of reasons, but one of the main reasons was because of the issue with veterans and their propensity to commit suicide over the recent years, and the fact that this would enable them to commit suicide more easily. You know, some people don't think it's that simple, but I am a veteran. My son is a Marine now. I have a lot of friends that are current members of the military, and I'm certainly concerned about that. But I'll also tell you that there are ways to help family members on their way that through hospice. I've had 3 family members die in the last 2 years. My mom died this year. My brother died 2 months ago of cancer. And they were helped through oral medications to be pain-free in their last weeks of life. So through hospice, there's help there. I just don't feel that the current legislation is where we want to go. And again, you have to examine these bills very carefully before you vote. So.
I did vote for that bill because I believe people should be able to die with dignity. And I thought there were enough safeguards in that bill to make sure that people couldn't make that fast decision. My mom died of pancreatic cancer. I'm going to tell you, it wasn't pretty to watch that for the last, month of her life. And I think if she knew that there was some way that she could have ended it early, I think she would have, and I think I would have helped her.
Mr. Cleveland, I believe you asked a question if the bill was to come up again?
Yes.
Okay, I was not in the legislature when the bill came up last time. I do not know what's in it. I'm not an expert to speak on that particular bill. If it was to come up while I was in office, I would have to read it and evaluate it before I could say yes or no.
I like to think of myself as an optimist, and to think of such a thing, it's a reality. One should prepare for it if they can through living wills. And I have not seen the bill either, so I'm going to have to pass on yes and no at this time.
Well, the executive council won't take this up. Again, it'll be taken up by the legislature, but I wouldn't support it if I were in the legislature.
Joe, could you put that mic a little closer to your, so we don't want to miss a moment.
Okay, this is something that the executive council won't be taking up. And so it's a policy decision that the legislature will take up. But if I were in the legislature, I wouldn't support the bill. In my family, we fight to every last breath. And I can't imagine being confronted with that decision. Every family is different. But in my family, we fight to every last breath.
Same caveat, we won't be touching this policy, but in general, I support death with dignity. And for me and my family, when my father, Lincoln Soldati, got cancer, his second cancer in stage 4, He was lucid and able to check himself into hospice across the street in our county, where he served as Stratford County Attorney for 17 years. And probably the most important thing for him and our entire family is that he was in the driver's seat, making decisions for his life and for his death. And allowing him to end his life with dignity did a lot for us in our grieving and mourning. And I would support other people's ability to make that choice.
Like some of the others have said, I'm not familiar enough with the bill to give you a definitive answer on it. I can tell you that I've watched a few people die, close members of my family, and anything that can be done to make that process easier for the person going through it and give them a more dignified end, I would be in support of.
Some people don't know, but before I went into ophthalmology, I was in a program at Mary Hitchcock in internal medicine, and there were plenty of instances where I felt that medicine did more to prolong people's dying than to actually help them. And that shaped my opinion on this issue. While I was not in the legislature this session, my name was on the ad in the Union Leader in support of the bill that came before the legislature this session. And were it to come before me, I would vote in favor.
So, yes, I have read the bill, and there's a gentleman in this room, Jerry Knurk, who wrote an absolutely lovely, compassionate, beautiful piece on what this bill is all about. I encourage you to look it up and read it. It will give you a wonderful explanation about what death with dignity is and how different it is from the issue of suicide. It's very different. It is something I really would love to look at. It's a committee I would like to sit on. I think with heart, with a lot of discussion, and with compassion for end-of-life issues, we can do it. And yes, I would vote for it.
I had not thought much about this issue until I was asked by someone at a door about how I felt about this, and at that moment, I was honest and said I really hadn't thought about it. And since then, I've thought about it a lot, knowing people also who are going through that right now. I conceptually would support it, but again, it would depend on the details of the bill and of what it entailed before whether I would vote yes or no on it. But conceptually, I do support death with dignity.
It's a journey we'll all take, and hopefully it will be a sacred passage for all of us as we transition from this life. I think that to insist on reasonable suffering is morally reprehensible. We need to have a way for people to choose their passing with control, dignity, and lack of suffering to the degree possible. Like so many here, I'm not familiar with the bill that is being referenced, but I think if a well-crafted piece of legislation could be put into effect, I most likely would be in favor of it.
Could we pass the microphone down to Joe Kenny, please, because I've got a counselor candidate specific question coming up. Let me just say one thing for those of you who aren't familiar with the power that the executive council wields in this state. Many states have governor's councils or executive councils, but no state has as powerful a group as the executive council in the state of New Hampshire. They really act, and it was Ray Burton who explained this to me 45 times, so if I'm wrong, I know I'll be corrected, but it acts like a board of directors for the state. Contracts, appointments, all that, all goes through the governor and council. And it is a serious position. And I just want to let everybody know that, because a lot of people wonder what it is an executive counselor actually does. There's plenty more too. And as Joe explained, if you look at the maps, somebody very thoughtfully prepared maps of the districts. One weird thing about New Hampshire, of the many, is that we have some astonishing districts in the state for the Senate and for Executive Council. And if you look at the size of the councilor district, going literally from Durham to the top of Coas County, it's really a lot to undertake. So this question, it says, for Joe Kenny and Emmett Soldati. Joe, we're going to start with you, please. GOP Executive Council members, including Joe Kenny, have consistently voted to defund Planned Parenthood of Northern New England, even as Governor Sununu backed the funding. Joe, can you explain why? And then we'll ask Emmett Soldati to give his stance on the issue. But Joe, if you could go first, please.
Thank you for the question. Also, I just wanted to add that the council has a very additional important role, which is confirming judges on the benches. And we've confirmed 27 in the last 2 years.
Joe, could you put the mic a little closer to your mouth, please?
I just wanted to add that the Executive Council has another important role, which is we confirm judges. And 27 have been confirmed over the last 2 years. So you can add up the hours pretty quickly, 2 hours a hearing, sitting down with individuals for 2 hours, and then traveling back and forth to Concord over 2 hours. You can know that I put in probably over 150 hours with the confirmation process. But I just wanted to point that out. That's a very important role that the council plays. So let's get back to Planned Parenthood. So the council approved all other family planning contracts that did not involve abortion services. So Coas County Family received funding for family planning, as well as Belknap and Merrimack County's CAP programs. They received funding. The legislature under House Bill 2 in 2022 passed a law that would prohibit family planning services to receive funding if they also provided abortion services. So, in my way of looking at it, I would be breaking the law. So I've not approved that. At the federal level, there's a thing called the Hyde Amendment. You cannot use federal funding for abortion services at the federal level. And time again, the polls have proven time and time again that the public taxpayer does not want their public monies given to organizations that provide abortion services. But having said that, it's a very sensitive topic. We always treat it, very delicately. But the governor has pushed it onto the council, and we've rejected it. Hence, that's why you have a governor and council. To provide a check on a governor that you disagree with, or to provide a check on a governor who's running in a direction that you don't feel that society wants you to run in.
So I want to clarify that there are only 3 centers in the entire state that provide abortions, 3 legitimate reproductive health care centers. None of them are in Carroll County, Coas County, Belknap County, or Stratford County. And if someone were to get pregnant up here, they would have to drive down to either Concord or the Lovering Health Center in Greenland, New Hampshire to get access to reproductive health care. And that's important to think about because at the same time in the state of New Hampshire, we have 20 fake abortion clinics. They're sometimes referred to as crisis pregnancy centers, and they are out on our main streets and they offer free pregnancy tests. But their goal is to lure young women who might be experiencing a pregnancy in and then prevent her from seeking full reproductive access, including an abortion, if she so chose. They're not health centers, they're not HIPAA compliant, which also means that many of them are able to track the individuals that come in and enter them into a national pregnancy database. That is the situation in New Hampshire today. 20 fake abortion clinics and only 3 centers that provide legitimate reproductive health care. And yet, when the state puts contracts on the governor's desk and then on the council chambers, none of that money can support funding an abortion. Planned Parenthood, the Lovering Health Center, and the Equality Health Center provide a range of critical care, including cancer screenings and STI testing. And they do so without ever turning a patient down who doesn't have the ability to pay. They are doing the work on the ground to provide necessary health care to Granite Staters. And historically, our Executive Council has funded all 3 of these centers. And we have recently departed from that when we know the vast majority of grant staters not only support a woman's right to choose, but recognize that reproductive rights are being assaulted because reproductive access is being deconstructed. And our executive council is the only place where we can support and strengthen our reproductive health care. And again, not a single dollar that sits on the desk of any executive counselor would fund an abortion. It would fund necessary family planning, reproductive and sexual health that we need. As an executive counselor, I would absolutely support and fund those contracts.
Thank you. Could we hand the microphone down to Mark McConkey, please? We're going to start back up the line. The question is, would you promise to vote no on any bill that would impose additional restrictions on women's reproductive rights? And would you promise to ensure increased access to reproductive health care facilities in New Hampshire?
Thank you for the question. I'll start out by saying Carol and I tried unsuccessfully for more than 10 years to have children. Having a family was something very important to us. I underwent at our own cost a procedure to make that supposedly easier. It didn't happen. We underwent IVF many years ago on 2 occasions, not paid for by insurance, again to have children. Neither of those 3 things worked for us. I am a pro-life person, but my opinion has evolved over the years in all my terms in the legislature. We have the law of the land right now is abortion up to 6 months, and with exceptions after that to 9 months. And I will pledge that I will not take a position to lessen that, because that has been worked out. It seems to be working fine. So I will not move, even though my position is pro-life.
So I, like Mark, my wife and I had difficulty having children. It took us about 5 years, and we finally decided that we weren't going to try everything. We got pregnant, so we got lucky. But my point is this, is that I'm a supporter of the current legislation. I wasn't in the State House at the time. I've said to many people that I will not vote to restrict the rights of women any further than what most women feel they are. I feel that 6 months is certainly adequate time to decide whether you want to have an abortion. I've seen the commercials on TV saying rape, incest, all this stuff, I can't get an abortion. That's not true. When you look at the law in the state of New Hampshire, you can get an abortion for basically any reason up to 6 months. After that, if you have any other difficulties with birth or the safety of the mother, you can still have an abortion. So while I don't think the bill in its current form is perfect, I will tell you the same thing I've told you about other bills. I'm not going to commit to vote no or yes on a bill until I actually read the text of the legislation, because it's very complicated. It's not as simple as people think when you look at the surfaces. Certain things in these bills that change the overall context of it, and I wouldn't be willing to commit any further until I read the text of the bill.
I've always said that I'm pro-life, pro-choice, excuse me. But I did vote for that abortion bill. And the reason I voted for that abortion bill is my daughter just had a baby. I've become a new grandmother. And I've watched her pregnancy pictures and all, and she lives in Colorado. And it was exciting, and I was elated because she's 41. I mean, this is her first child, and it'll be her only child. I voted for the 6 months because the way I felt was, if you can't make up your mind in 6 months, then there's something wrong there. And I had 2 children. I know what pregnancy is all about. I know how it feels. I know how active the babies can be at a certain point. And I believe that this law is good. Even though I would never have an abortion, I think my personal opinion shouldn't be somebody else's. So I believe that women should be able to have an abortion up to 6 months. I wouldn't change this law in New Hampshire. I would still support it. There are probably a few things I might look at if we get any other new bills that would improve it. But right now, I'm okay with it.
So as you've heard, what the current bill in New Hampshire reads as far as women being able to have an abortion. The whole idea about, yes or no, that's not part of my agenda. We have a law, it works. I know some people think it's too restrictive, some people don't think it's restrictive enough. But it's something that's working right now. I have no interest in changing it. If somebody was to come to me and say, we have something to change the current law, it better be a good reason if you're going to convince me to vote for it. Thank you.
Families are so important to everyone, and fortunately, I have a great family, and I've had some neighbors that did have some issues in starting their family, and they finally, through medical assistance help. I'd like to see some insurance incentives so that people who need medical assistance for consultation, things like that, be easier for them and no financial restrictions. I do not see any need for any more restrictions on family planning life.
Well, for the many years that I've been involved in public service as an elected official, I've always run as a pro-life candidate, except for the exception of the woman's health, rape and incest. And I still have that viewpoint today. I'm not going to be making a policy decision on this particular item. I think New Hampshire has reached a balance, and I think that's where we're at today.
Again, so this is a policy that wouldn't come across the Executive Council, but I think it's important to call out that for any candidate running for office or currently elected, if they stand by any position, whether it's the 6-month or what we had before under Roe versus Wade, you cannot talk about reproductive rights if there is nowhere to get an abortion. And if we are systematically defunding and dismantling all the places, it doesn't matter if it's a 6-month or a 6-week abortion ban. If you can't access your full range of reproductive rights, then you don't have those rights. It is our Executive Council and in many times our legislature that need to be a safeguard, to be supporting and strengthening not just our current community today, but the families that want to move here and live here. This ban was not about whether someone can make up their minds at 6 months. It's about whether politicians, especially many of whom will never get pregnant, should be in the doctor's office, and I think they should not.
So as I said at the beginning of the night, we adopted my now daughter, biological granddaughter at, we started taking care of her at 6 days old, and we eventually adopted her. So it's a pretty complicated issue when you frame it that way. That being said, I would not be in favor of restricting a woman's reproductive rights in any way.
Thank you for the question. As I said in Wakefield in 2016, I think that we need to make a distinction between our religious beliefs and what the state ought to do. And while I don't like abortions, I don't think the state has any place in restricting a woman's right to choose. As far as the law that was passed, people have said that it's similar to the law in Massachusetts. It's not. One of the biggest problems with the law that we passed here in New Hampshire is that it has criminal penalties for doctors, and that has the unintended consequence of making it very difficult to recruit doctors to rural New Hampshire, which is already a problem, and we need to change that. The second thing about the law that was passed is it was a solution in search of a problem. We actually have statistics on late-term abortions in the state of New Hampshire. I got them from the Department of Insurance because they're in the insurance claims database back when I was a state rep. This is not something that happens. We didn't need to pass a law in the first place. So I do not support the current law. Thank you.
So when the Roe decision went away with the Dobbs decision, we put women at risk. It is projected that over the next 5 years, there will be 5,000 less OBGYNs in this country. And you think about that. Who wants to go into obstetrics and gynecology to treat women when they have the legal system hanging over there, brought on by the decisions of men who decided to say they were pro-life when they don't want to feed the damn kids? And it really makes me angry. I don't think there should be anything between me and my doctor in making a decision about my body. I would vote for back to Roe. We cannot continue down this line. It's a slippery slope, and we are hurting women, we are killing women, and under the guise of pro-life is taking care of the people that we care about. We need to take care of women and families. We need to feed the kids. We need to take care of each other. And our doctors and women need to make the decision with the people they love in their family and not with everybody here telling them what to do.
Thank you. So I do not support the current law. It's really got some major gaping holes in it, as far as I'm concerned. The rape and incest piece of it, if a woman is raped and then is pregnant as a result of that, rape is about power, and then the fact that whenever a woman decides that she wants to terminate a pregnancy from that situation, should be up to her. And then as, I'm not sure Sandy or Bill mentioned it, but the criminalization of the doctors, that again is something that is so, what's the word? Is so off-putting to doctors to, like I said, want to come to New Hampshire. We lose people and qualified individuals that want to come here. So I do not support the current law.
I'll also say I don't support these limitations. People have all kinds of belief systems, and they certainly in our country are free to have them. But when they decide that they're going to impose them on other people who may not have those same belief systems, then I have an issue with that. My opinion on the situation is that women with their spouses or in concert with medical people should be free to make whatever decisions are appropriate. And this is not a legal decision. This is a personal and moral decision that rightfully should stay there.
Thank you all. Next question. Are you in favor of the bill expanding student eligibility for meals at school? And could you provide a reason for or against that?
Me?
You.
Okay. Well, I love this question because I think it really is the compass for how we express our support for our children in society. During COVID, we had funding to provide meals to all children, breakfast and lunch, and that just was a wonderful situation in the middle of a challenging situation during COVID. And then those funds went away. Now, in Effingham, where I live, I happen to know that a good 30% of the students in our elementary school suffer from food insecurity. And I think that's typical of many of our communities. It creates a real problem for children who are actually eligible for food assistance and whose families do not come forward to fill out the forms they need to access that. And the children are often ridiculed in school if they do take advantage of those programs because, you know, how kids are, they can be very unkind for a lot of different reasons. I think we are obligated to take care of these kids. Yes, we should provide those meals.
Thank you. I'm completely in favor of the meal program for the children at school. Molten Borough, everyone talks about that we are a very wealthy town. Well, we're a property wealthy town, but we have a lot of low-income families and a lot of families that could really use the free lunch. And as Jim said, they don't always apply for it because of a stigma or something that, that back to the children, that the children are not always kind to each other. But I feel like we should allow for those children to be able to get meals at no cost. And also there is something, sometimes when the children do come to school, even my kids' friends, the only times they're really eating a good meal is at school. They're very much struggling when they're not at school. So I am in favor of that.
First of all, we know that children just simply do better in school when their bellies are full. When they don't come to school hungry, they simply learn more. A moment ago, I referenced Feed the Damn Kids. That was Art Ellison's bill. I believe it was defeated by 1 vote. It was a bill to do exactly that, to feed kids in school. I again think it's disingenuous to say you're pro-life and not support life by feeding those who need to be fed and by teaching kids with full bellies in our school. So yes, I absolutely support it. Feed the damn kids. That's Art Ellison's line, not mine. On a few t-shirts.
Thank you. I think we discovered during COVID when we fed all the kids that there were in fact administrative cost savings doing that. I think if we want our children to compete in the global marketplace, we need to give them every advantage we can, and feeding them well is certainly a less expensive advantage than a lot of the other things we do for the kids in school. So yes, I very much support feeding the kids.
As I referenced earlier, the first 40 years of my, nearly 40 years of my life, I was pretty insulated from interactions with the government, other than paying my taxes. Over the last roughly 20 years, I've learned a lot about how weak the social safety net is in the state of New Hampshire. I think anything that we can do to improve that social safety net, we need to do. There's the space between the haves and have-nots in the state is only getting bigger. I don't think that any of us want to turn the state into a gated community where only the wealthy can afford to live there.
Yes, feed the damn kids.
Well, I'm pro-life and I support feeding the kids. We just had a big announcement up north, and it's taken years, that we're gonna have a food warehouse for the New Hampshire Food Bank. It's something I've been banging my head on for years. It's finally gonna come to fruition. The Coas County, just for an example, has a food insecurity between 12 to 18%. 21% of that is our school children. That's just, incomprehensible to think of that. And so we have to get food into our schools, whether we work with the Hunger Solutions or the New Hampshire Food Bank or other groups that help out with food. We have the SNAP program, which is good. It helps out families, but sometimes it doesn't get to the school. And the only meal that a kid might get all day is from that school. And I was blown away in 2014 when I was at Berlin High School and they had a food pantry inside their high school. That told me everything I needed to know about kids going home without any food in their belly, but the only food they would get maybe was through that food pantry. Absolutely, we need to beef up food in the school system, work with the Department of Education, work with our local school boards, and just make it happen. I support it.
Food is nutrition, and nutrition equals good health. And some of these children probably are not getting good nutrition at home. So it's two places, in their studies and their good health. I'm just trying to think of how much it would cost to just add this across the board. And we're paying $20,000 to $40,000 per student, depending on the town and education program. And my guess, off the top of my head, is about $1,000 a student. So if you segregate a small group, 20% of the school, that might be subject to ridicule, that's not fair to them, to their education. So I say somehow find that $1,000 and make it across the board without any distinction.
Well, I certainly am not in favor of making kids starve. If we have a program now that is feeding kids, so that the kids can flourish in school, that is good. If there is a bill to change it, I'm not aware of it. I have not had the experience, the ability to look at it. I would like to before, saying yes or no. But obviously, the kids here have to be thought of first.
Nobody wants to see a hungry child in school, and I know the schools themselves certainly don't let kids go hungry. They will provide food for them if their parents cannot do that. I'm trying to remember the bill specifically that came to the legislature on that particular subject, and I think the bill had a huge money ticket to a financial, and we call them FNs to it, and I really can't remember the actual amount it would take to do a program like feeding all the students. And I think maybe that's why some people didn't vote for it. I don't think it was ever an issue of not feeding kids. And I think some people just didn't like the price tag of it, but I say feed the kids.
So I was on the school board in Marlboro a few years ago, and I have two sons that graduated from Marlboro Academy, and they have some friends that are food insufficient, whatever you want to call it, that spend time at my house, and so they made good use of my pantry. But also the fact is that they do have to fill out the form. But I know, based on what my sons told me, everybody knows who these kids are in school, and from my kids' perspective, they don't ridicule them, but kids can do that. The point is, even if kids forget their money, even if they don't have the money to get lunch, I know the school in Marlboro provides food to every kid that needs a meal in that district. I can't speak to the other districts. But back to Carol's point, I know that we did pass a bill increasing the funding for school food programs for children in the last 2 years. I don't remember what it was. And I think the issue with the Ellison bill was the high ticket price to that. And that's why a lot of people didn't vote for that at the time.
How did you vote for it?
I voted against that one, but I did vote for the other one to increase the budget for school meals. And it was particularly for...
Thank you.
It was for breakfast.
Maybe a gentleman could take that up. I think it's unconscionable to think that a family doesn't make their highest priority feeding their children. I came from a working class family that my mother always said, so many have more than you, but nobody eats better than us. The children are being fed on a needs basis at school. I don't know that that's enough. I know that this price tag on this program came through, and so much legislation looks absolutely wonderful, seems clear and clean on the surface, but the details is where it goes. I agree with so much that Joe just said about the program. I know that through our work on the Lands Committee with Joy Gagnon and the Food Access Group, we're looking at solutions, a food hub and so forth with the county property. But I believe in funding. It has to be reasonable, and children need to be fed.
Thank you. We are running low on time. We have more questions, but we're going to have to try and wrap this up as close to 8:30 as we can. So I'm going to ask the candidates now, and Mark, we'll start with you if we could, to, in a minute or so, not a lot more than that, please, sum up why you would like to have our vote.
Thank you, George, and thank all of you for attending, and I'm looking forward to hearing from people that are going to take this opportunity to watch on TV. I believe in safe roads, bridges, and addressing housing crisis, increasing state aid for our local communities, preserving our environment, and I will never support a sales and income tax. To close, I have recently had a direct hand in Route 16 improvements from Wakefield to Conway, replaced the Ospey Lake Dam, made multiple improvements to White Lake State Park, resurfacing Route 113 and so many other roadways. In the one outside the door, even something as simple as reinstating the crosswalk, which had gone away. My name is Mark McConkey, and I ask for your vote on November 5th.
I'll say that anybody has any questions about what I've said tonight, I'll stick around and answer any further questions that you have about it. My card has my personal cell phone number on it, so you can contact me about anything afterwards. But I asked you to vote for me because I've done what I consider good work over the last 2 years. You can look at what my record has been. You can look at the other representatives that have worked with me, including the people on Municipal and County Government Committee. Contact any of the Democrats on that committee and ask them about how I work with them to try and provide good quality bills for us to vote on in the State House. But I ask you to continue to vote for me because I've done the work. I am thoughtful about what I do. I read the bill. I look at both sides of the bill before I vote on it. And I ask people in my district what they think about it if I have the opportunity to before time. And I take whatever your calls are and have consideration for them before I vote on any bill. Thank you.
So if you try to call me at my number, I'm never home. Leave me a message because I'll certainly call you back. But I believe I have 32 years of community service. I have 12 years with the state legislature. I have 11 years as a select board member. I'm a select board member right now in Moulton Borough. And I served 9 years on the school board in Moulton Borough. So I certainly have a lot of experience. I'd like to say that I have basically a voice of reason. And I really believe that I have respect for my fellow representatives. I work across the aisle all the time. I co-sponsor bills that Democrats bring up. If it's a good bill, then I feel that it's good for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I'd like to continue on the Transportation Committee. That's been my committee for the last 12 years. Transportation is what I know. It's not highways like Representative McConkey. It's licensing and speed limits and that type of thing. That's my expertise. I teach driver education. I've done that for 27 years. I guess that's why my hair is a little white, but 16 and 17-year-olds are great. I certainly do enjoy them. But I'd ask that, I'd ask respectfully if you could consider me on November 5th, because I would really appreciate going back to Concord. I really enjoy it.
So my name is Joe Hamlin. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to be here tonight, be able to speak to you. Unlike most people here, I am a first time running for office. I'm 70 years old. My wife and I love this state. Our families are from the state. We want to live here. We want to do something for this state. We want to give back. And this is my way of giving back to the state, to be able to work for you, to tackle whatever issues come up, hopefully find solutions amongst everybody that we can agree on, implement them, and build a better life. Thank you.
I'm pushing education, number one. If you try to get an electrician or a plumber in the area, I think the state needs more trade schools, technical schools. My personal experience is from a one-room school in Effingham to an apprenticeship for 4 years for tool and die making to an MBA. So all these are stepping stones for me to help provide for my family. This town is great on your groundwater protection ordinance, things like this. So protect our waters to keep money coming in from out of state. It's over $2 billion a year in tourism. And also, somehow, the big nut of controlling state funding while giving you all you want is going to be tough. And I hope to be able to work on it with your vote. And we hope you can make a better decision on November 5th, what you're going to learn this evening.
Thank you. I ask you for your vote on November 5th. As someone who's been in public service for most of my adult life, I really enjoy the job that I'm in and traveling around the district helping people solve their problems. Every commissioner in state government knows me, and they know when I call, I'm not there to socialize, I'm there to get something done, and they respond. And so I've had a great background in transportation, working with the 10-year highway plan. That whole process starts at the council, and we run it all the way through the legislature. We also have things like childcare, which is a passion of mine. It's a big topic in the state. If you want a workforce, you're going to need childcare and you're going to need housing. It's a lot of money has gone out through the governing council. I want to make sure it gets to where it needs to go. Additionally, we've passed infrastructure grants for schools. We've passed along cyanobacteria grants for communities to help out with their lakes. We've had an opportunity to expand on broadband, which I'd like to see. I'd like to see the Veterans Campus come to fruition, which is over in Franklin. I support my veterans. I'm one of them. They understand me, and I help them out all the time. I also want people to know that I'm available, and I have been, and I'm going to continue that. I think we live in the greatest state in the nation and in the world. We're always voted in the top 3 most livable state in the country, and the least poverty, and the least tax burden, and some of the most beautiful natural resources that we have to protect. And I'd like to say over my 30 years as an elected official, off and on, that I've had a part in that, growing up in the state and keeping it in New Hampshire. So I ask for your support on November 5th. Thank you for all coming out.
I would hazard a guess that most of us in this room live in New Hampshire or moved to New Hampshire or returned to New Hampshire because this is a special place. And we want it to be special not just for us and our family, but for the next generation. And we're starting to see some changes that sometimes feel a little inevitable. When your local public school closes, your favorite business in your main street shutters, your access to your local health care or maternity ward is gone, your lake is closed for the season because of algal blooms. These things are not inevitable. And if we want to deliver on the promise that we receive to our next generation, it takes real work for safeguarding, protecting, and strengthening our communities. I'm running for executive council because I believe we need to strengthen and improve access to reproductive health care in the state, and I will fund Planned Parenthood. I believe we need to support a transition to clean energy, and we need a Public Utilities Commission and Department of Energy that is not in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry, but supports the solar industry and net metering. And I believe in a Department of Education that is for and pro public schools, and that our current Education Commissioner, Frank Edelblut, is one of the most disastrous commissioners we have in the state, as he seeks to dismantle public schools, target LGBTQ youth, and wants to reintroduce book banning the first time in this century. I would support a pro-public school, pro-public education commissioner. I believe that promise is real and we can deliver it just as I and many of us have benefited from. And to do that, it means we have to work together to support and strengthen our communities. I encourage you to vote for me and learn more about me at emmettsoldati.com. Thanks.
Again, I'm Rob Davies, running for Carroll County District 8. The reason that I asked for your vote is that I believe in the idea of a citizen legislature. People have talked quite a bit tonight about their experience, the public service that they've already done. This is my first time running, my first time asking to be a public servant through your vote. But I think that, as I said before, I was kind of isolated from some of the problems that the state has. I was busy raising a family and running a business. But I think that a fresh set of eyes on some of the problems from just a regular citizen, is something that the state can benefit from. So again, I ask for your vote in November.
Thank you, Rob. I'm Bill Marsh. I'm running for state senate. My biggest issues, first of all, is access to health care. We know that Healthcare Corporation of America has taken over a number of hospitals around here, including Frisbee Hospital, and has closed access in the places that they've taken over. There are a number of other places that they're looking after. I know hospital finance as well as anybody from my 10 years as treasurer of Hopkins Hospital, and that's probably the area that I intend to work on the most, because without that access, we can't live here. I think the cyanobacteria blooms on Lake Winnipesaukee this summer were a wake-up call for an awful lot of people. Yes, that's very much a function of climate change and the shorter winters. We need to work on that, but we also need to work on short-term solutions so that we can preserve the lakes and mountains that we all know and love, and our tourist economy that we all depend upon. Housing is a huge issue. People can't afford to live here. We need to find out ways to make more housing units available, and we need to make sure that they don't all turn into tourist rentals so that people can afford to live and work here. And the last thing, and perhaps the most important thing to me, I came to New Hampshire 50 years ago. I love New Hampshire. I love the New Hampshire I moved to. I want it to stay like that. I don't want it to become a libertarian paradise with no social services. So we really want to preserve the New Hampshire that we know and love, and that's why I'm asking for your vote in November. You can learn more about me at marshforsenate.com. Thank you.
So I'm Sandra Ringelstein. Everything that Emmett said, and this. Did you know that you can go on the Secretary of State's website and look at the voting records of all the people who are sitting to my left? And I'm not trying to be nasty. I don't hold that in my heart. But it's been 2 years since I ran previously in District 8, and nothing has changed. We're fighting the same issues we fought 2 years ago. The school voucher program that aims at dismantling public education. That means 2 years of kids not fed, but we're giving money out to people to go to other institutions. 2 years of women now feeling as though they're less than because of the Dobbs decision that these guys support in their bill. 2 years that every single person down here has voted opposite of the way I would vote. So I urge you, go look at how they voted and then see if we're any better 2 years later. We need to change the legislative majority in Concord. I would like to do that, as well as a lot of people sitting here. Now, I'm someone who believes you can hold two things in your heart and in your hand at the same time. Carol and I have been friends for 40 years. Our kids went to school together. I care about the people in my community, but we vote differently. I am pro-choice. I am pro-public schools. I am pro-women's right to not have the government in between her and her decisions about her body. And I could go on. So I bring to the table 40 years of experience in various areas: public schools, women's women's rights, and business. I cross my T's and I dot my I's. I would really like to serve in Concord. I'd like to help change the legislative majority down there so that 2 years from now, you can say, we've done something. Thank you. I'm Sandra Ringelstein, District 3, Moulton Borough, Madison, and Tamworth.
A lot of, Sandra and I are very like-minded on a lot of things, but the biggest thing to me, or two biggest things to me, are the public education. When I've been doing research, as I've been learning more about what's been going on in Concord, seeing some of the programs that are out there, such as the voucher program that is really moving money from public education to private and even religious schools. Public education is a foundation in our country and our state, and it is somewhere where you go, a child goes to enroll, instead of to a private school where they go to apply, that they can be turned away. Public education is where everyone can have the same shot from when they start in kindergarten. Everybody's education is different as they mature, but they all start and it's something they are entitled to by the state. Women's reproductive rights, with my family situation, I'm very concerned, not necessarily right this minute, but there are a lot of things happening around the country that we're not immune from. There are a lot of legislative actions that are happening in other states, but they could be here. And to Sandy's point, is part of being the change is I have this temporary tattoo, Be the Change, that I saw, because I hate needles, so I would never get a real one. I carry this right here. I put it on every few weeks when it fades off, because that's what I'm doing. I want to be part of the change in the legislation in Concord and make things better for our state. So I would appreciate your vote. My name is Kim Johnson, on November 5th. Thank you.
And they save the best for last. I'm Jim Pittman. I'm running for state rep, District 8. I'm from Effingham. People who have worked in business may be familiar with the concept of agile systems. What they look to do is to break down barriers within business, get rid of protective silos that can often be built up as people protect their own areas. And they're also designed to respond quickly to changes, because in business, if you can't change with the changes in the marketplace, you may not survive. Now, we live in a world and we live in a state that is undergoing many rapid changes, and of course the environmental issues that we are seeing new to mankind. Here we are, we're charged to take action to address them. Now, in the legislature, I think we need to adopt that same sort of agile approach. We need to work together. We don't need to work apart for our own special interests. If we work together, we will succeed, we will survive, we will prosper. The people of the state will all be taken care of, not just those who may have large assets and can afford to buy their way out of challenges. And through our legislature, hopefully we can be the leaders that will approach these challenges head on and have very good solutions. So I'd like to be part of that, and I will pledge to be there for every vote possible, and hope to see you all at the polls. Don't forget to vote.
Thank you again to the Chicago Community Association and K.A. Brett School for doing this, and for Mad TV for taping this for us. And again, as we go off, I just want to thank the candidates. Everybody who was invited came. I think that might be a first in the history of Chicago Community Association debate.